Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome everyone. Now it's been quite some time since I've done any proper turning, so I'm trying to just get back into things. And quite some time ago I bought, I think about 10 of these test tubes. The actual diameter of the cylinder there is 16mm, so hopefully a 16mm hole will suit that. And just for guidance, they're about 100mm long. I've got on the lathe here a piece that I got from the local sawmill, which is sold as firewood, just to give you a gauge there with the test tube. So we're looking at just over 210, 220mm long, and again width wise they're probably about 75mm square. So I'm just really going to go back more or less to basics, create a Bud Vase, drill a hole to drop the test tube in. I may do some form of texturing, I'm possibly not colouring, and I'm not sure about finish. First job was to get this trued up, get a tenon on one end. So just got that trued up, and I'm going to straighten off the end with a skew, and then put a tenon on there down to the size of my calipers. Something I always do as well is that whenever I have a piece to go in the chuck, I always mark on it where jaw 1 is going to be, and it's just habit really, because in that way I know that if ever I mount something back into the chuck, I can always mount it back in the same position. At least that way it's more chance of being truer. So I just tend to try and pick somewhere like this and put a mark all around. Right now that straight into where jaw 1 is. Hopefully it runs fairly true. I'll just turn the speed down a bit. So there's a slight bit out on the end there. So I'm just going to true this end up with the skew like I did on the tenon, so I get a nice surface on the end here. Then that way I know that I haven't got to go down further in the wood in case there's any imperfections there. And once I've got that done, I can then drill the 16mm hole longer than what the test tube is going to be, just in case I take more away from this end. So I'm going to turn the lathe speed down to just about 500. I've let this cool down, and just with the same speed ran the drill bit in 2 or 3 times, because this was really tight, and it's certainly up to there it's actually quite free. To there it's the bottom section which is still a little bit tight. Just want to create a lip in there a bit for it to drop into. So that should then hopefully have the test tube sort of just disappear slightly inside there. I suppose the important thing is now I need to work out roughly what sort of shape I'm going to do here. So if the test tube's there, I can probably have the bottom somewhere down here, bring some form of a bulb shape around before coming up to the point of the top here. So I'm going to get that turned down now. I'm going to probably work on the basis of this being the bottom and then work from there. Just using the spindle gouge again. It does take a fair bit of the material away. And you could use a spindle rough and gouge. So just need to be wary on the sides that I'm going down here because of the thickness of the test tube. So I think what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to create more of a lip on the top. Just round over this top a bit. Going to start rounding this edge off now. And what I always find that you think as well when you're going along, you create these little steps and you think, right, perhaps I'll add an extra little step in there, so I may well do that as well. So let's just take this down so it's straight up. Fairly even on there, got a little bit of tear out on there. Going to create some form of a lip stroke step on there. Just going to take that down further though. Just have to go over with a scoop. So just shape this now that will certainly be the bottom. So I'm going to get the parting tool and put an edge in the bottom there as a cut-off point. Just doing it as well so it's undercutting as well. Now just to get this last section shaped. Get rid of some of this waste as well. So I'm going to get this sanded now. I've sanded this to 400 and it's got rid of literally all the markings. Haven't done anything with the inside there, just left as it is. It does feel a little bit rough, so I might have to run a bit of sandpaper down there at some point. I'm going to have a go with the Robert Sorby texturing tool I've got. Rarely use this. So I've got this small cutter on there at the moment. Lathe speed is set to just over 500 RPM. Rarely ever use this. So I honestly don't know what sort of result I'm going to get. So I'm going to try and do that as a zigzag. That's come out all right. Some bits are not so great. I suppose it's just down to the practice. I've got some bits there where I've overrun. Just need to mark where I want to go. Going to do similar on the top as well. This one doesn't need to be so far because the top crosses have come out okay. That seems to be okay. It's a lot better. It's tidied it up. Most of the cross pattern is pretty good. I've got some little bits in there that are not 100%. Just going to get some sanding sealer on this. So just going to apply this with the lathe spinning. Got the lathe spinning at around 400 RPM at the minute. If I can take that away again, so I can get a little bit in the end there. So I'm just going to give that a few minutes to dry. And then I'm going to knock that back with the nye web, just the yellow one there. Just with the nye web, if there is any raised grain. just to knock it back a bit. Just took that roughness off there as well. I don't think I'm actually going to apply a finish. I think if I was, I certainly wouldn't do a wax because of this. The wax is just going to get in there and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. A spray lacquer would be more ideal. So I'm just going to pile that off as it is. I just want to undercut it slightly. So I've got a little bit of tear out on the bottom there. So I've just got a sand disc in there with some coarse paper on there at the minute. Just try and tidy the bottom up a little bit. Certainly not going to get rid of all the tear out. This is the problem with using a parting tool. Pop the test tube in there. That goes in there nicely. That is the finished vase. Decided to do something quite simple, but at the same time do something that I've not really done much of before. I've done quite a few Bud Vases in the past, especially with the test tubes in there. At the moment, this one does still go in and out quite nicely. First thing on that, wood will move, especially in different environments where it's a bit more moist or drier. That will twist a little bit and make that test tube really tight. The biggest problem is really the suction on there, because it's like cracking a vacuum when you pull it out. A way around that may even be to put a minuscule hole through the bottom so that you can get an airflow through, but it then doesn't make the bottom look too good. First comment I've got to make on this as well is it's interesting, you've got this orange in the wood there. Now I don't think that's from, well, I mean, it could possibly be from where the tree had a mark put on it. I'm not sure. If anybody else has got any ideas, it would be interesting to know, but there is a very slight orange mark in the wood. With the finish, I just decided to put sanding sealer on. I'm actually quite pleased with that. It's got a really nice smooth finish. This is probably where I did push myself a little bit more on there, is that I rarely use the texturing tool. I had no idea what I was going to get out first of all, so when I put it across to start with and see those really close lines at the nice diagonal, I thought, right, well, there's only one thing to do: flip it over to the other 45 degrees and create a knurled effect. Because again, I'd overshot it, I think, at the bottom with one direction, I then decided, right, I've got to disguise that, put these coves in on the bottom, and it wouldn't have looked right without some form of a cove or marking on the top as well. Be interested to hear your thoughts on this, especially that orange colour on there. Tips, etc. on the texturing tool will be great. I just think the little texture on there just breaks it up a little bit nicely. Thanks a lot for watching.